great to be here again. I was here as an observer last month when I visited Keith in his office upstairs, and I came down to join you all. And earlier in the year, I actually had done a Zoom seminar at your Biztalk, virtually from Singapore, where I'm based. But I'm here again together in person with you all and talking about Bitcoin for the second time, but on a more extensive basis. Thank you. Okay, so tonight's presentation, mainly there are a few sections. I thought it would be useful for me to give you a history of how Bitcoin came along, the whole idea of cryptocurrencies and the evolution of when it was first started over a decade ago and where it's evolved to. So just give you an idea, today there's a lot of terminology called Bitcoin and cryptos today called Web 3.0. So today we are living in a Web 3.0 version, but Web 1.0 came out in the late 80s and 90s. So the first version of Web 1.0 was very simple, email, points of presence, ISPs and all that. Then came the rush in the late 90s where the emergence of Web 2.0 companies, namely after the internet browser was developed and released, people started coding HTML pages, read only. And after people had content pages, people started doing transactions. So Web 3.0 saw the emergence of companies like eBay, the early versions of Amazon, where people went to the online marketplace to transact. So Amazon today is a lot bigger, but offers a lot of services more than just buying books and other merchandise. eBay, on the other hand, has basically disappeared from everyone's image. Only uncle, aunties like me know what eBay is, right? I still buy on eBay because there are terrific bargains to be found. But the modern day 3.0 shopper, like the millennials, they all talk about Shopee, right? Or Lazada, the 11, 55, and all that. So 2.0 is transactional, but 3.0 is really cool in my mind because Web 2.0 basically was controlled by all the giants, Amazon, eBay, Facebook, and all that. They're all these big entities, and obviously some of them are named public enemy number one, right? Like Facebook and all that, because they have a few billion users and all that. But what has emerged in the last decade or so, which is 3.0, is basically giving control back to the individual citizen and user of the world. It's called decentralization, and it's a decentralization of all the e-commerce and web services that we know. So Web 3.0 is very interesting to me. I've trained initially as a computer scientist. I did programming. I went to finance, became a fund manager for a long time. And during the last 2 years, I re-educated myself with blockchain and all that. And I find we are at the cusp of another golden age of computing today. So for us, I'm middle-aged really, but I still think there are many golden years ahead for people like me. And for the millennials who are in the audience too, I think there's a universe ahead, which I think up to you all to direct it, because a lot of Web 3.0 are self-directed. You don't need to be a big company, but what you need to do is to have a community form around your idea. May I have a next slide, please? So the typical Web 3.0 stack is amalgamation of a lot of things. In the past, it was just functional, right? Transact, pay one person the other. Then now there's community. That's what they call social, right? Social media, as you know, Twitter, or Facebook, all that, they're really like the interaction between users, but it's still controlled by a big company like Facebook and all that. Web 3.0 totally changes it. The community directs the direction of the platform itself. The community owns the platform. There's no one single entity which controls it. You look at all the big blockchain platforms, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all that. Obviously, the foundations which group together programmers, but the direction of blockchain, Ethereum, and other coins dependent on the community, where they want to develop it to. And control back to the community also comes with voting rights and all that. So it's a community not just for transacting commerce or communications. It's basically exercising your opinion or voice as an individual, where you can collectively participate in these platforms. Okay. During the icebreaker, Swiss said what happened in 2008. 2008 was, I think in 2007, you know, there's a great financial crisis due to the real estate bubble being burst in the US. And someone in the world got really annoyed because to bail out the banks and the real estate companies, the US government printed a lot of money, right? They just diluted the currency. So hence someone wrote a paper for Bitcoin. And this person is still not known to the general public. This person used assumed identity called Satoshi Nakamoto, right? And wrote this paper specification for Bitcoin, which is basically a stable currency where no government can manipulate, and what they call is immutable. So from this white paper came out the actual Bitcoin platform. Okay, so blockchain and Bitcoin didn't appear from anywhere. It's actually a combination, a lot of few things. Some of you today who run accounts, accountant, executive, or accountants, or do business, or for me, I grew up in Malacca in the 70s, right? You go to your kedai buncit, you buy things on credit, right? What do you show? Your 555 book, right? You don't pay until month end, right? You're going to settle month end. So blockchain is essentially a digital form of your 555 book. Every transaction is recorded. They call it a ledger, right? Accountants are trained, those who do ACCA or do finance, their own business or what, you have to do your books, right? And you do a ledger entry. So blockchains are essentially a digital form of ledger where all your transactions are recorded. And once they are recorded, they cannot be changed. It's a permanent record. So that's the beauty of blockchain. No one can go back and falsify or change the data. Once it's recorded in ledger, it stays there. And there's evidence when the transaction was recorded at what time. They call it a timestamp. It's like a proof the transaction was recorded this date. And nobody can change that. And then besides the accounting function, you have what they call, you have a computer security called cryptography. That means no one can break into that. No one can hack it to get the data, right? Because cybersecurity is an issue. And cybersecurity and cryptology dates back to the World War II and pre-World War II. If you see on a slide there, there's a picture of a British gentleman there. He's called Alan Turing, a very famous mathematician from Cambridge in the 1930s. And he came into fame in World War II because at that time, the British were fighting the Germans. And the Germans were using a coded message to transmit all their military communications with submarines, warships, ground troops, and all that. And you see that the machine in the slide there is called the Enigma machine. So Enigma machine is the earliest form of very successful cryptography where somebody can type in the special typewriter, the basic message, but then it gets coded in a totally different message. And whoever receives it must know the certain key to reverse back the message back into original form. So Alan Turing really pushed, Alan Turing and a bunch of Cambridge and Polish mathematicians push cryptography. So cryptography today is still being used even in our mobile phone, our calls, all that are encrypted, and it's used in banking transaction and it's used in blockchain. Okay, this is a bit technical, but essentially, as I said, your 555 book is basically ledger entry. So blockchain is actually a series of all the ledger entries over time. The first block we started blockchain is the first, let's say you buy a new 555 book, the first entry, you put the first utang you make to the kedai runcit, right? That's your first entry. In blockchain, it's called the Genesis block, right? The first, just like in you have the story of Genesis, right? Same thing. Blockchain also has Genesis, but it's the first block. Any blockchain starts always with Genesis block. Then anything subsequent to it is just added on. It's a whole chain. You think if you're a bicycle chain or your chain for your house, it's just all connected. But it always starts with the first chain, the first link. Okay. So very interesting. A lot of blockchain technologies actually date back. All the theories about blockchain date back even to the medieval times. There's an empire called the Byzantine Empire, which was during the Middle Ages. They're conquering most of Europe. And the king of the empire had a problem with all the generals, right? There's a conspiracy always. He didn't know which general may defect or not follow his order, right? So how does he make sure that his generals are either following his order or not carrying out their own order? So what they did is that what they call in the mathematicians term the Byzantine Empire's problem, where how do you communicate among your army generals to make sure that everyone's following things according to order? So then that's how they came out the word consensus, right? Everyone consents and there's a majority. So when blockchain, when they transact and they agree upon what data to put on the blockchain, that there will be a consensus among all the validators, which are the Bitcoin miners. Yeah. So I don't know, a lot of you are younger than me, but if you grew up in Malaysia in the 70s, last time I remember Toto Malaysia, the draw will be on RTM TV, right? Right, they will make the ball, then there'll be a bunch of 3 judges, right? They pick the ball, then they show the whole afternoon, half an hour at 3 o'clock. The 3 judges all just say betul, 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 right? The whole afternoon, 1 hour. So consensus algorithm is like that, right? Everyone, they show the data block to all the validators. All the validators, majority must say betul, betul, betul. That's what consensus algorithm is. So all this technology in computer science and mathematics were brought into blockchain. Yeah. So today, blockchain really is a very sophisticated platform. Okay. So you may have heard of Bitcoin mining before, right? Anyone here has heard about Bitcoin mining? Right. Yeah. Some of your friends in IT might be churi, right? In your IT, your server room, you all have Bitcoin mining machine. Huh? Your boss knows or not? Okay. Never go work at Tenaga, like power station going to run your. Okay, so Bitcoin mining now is the craze around the world. Basically, I introduced the concept of consensus algorithm. Basically, all the miners must agree, they must solve the puzzle, right? And then to solve the puzzle for the cryptography problem, they must solve it first, and whoever solves it first, consensus algorithm must agree, then they'll get rewarded in the form of Bitcoin micro coins, they call it Satoshis. So the craze around the world right now is everyone wants to accumulate Satoshi points, right? So they run Bitcoin mining. It's basically a very sophisticated PC. So a lot of them, China did that. I think in Malaysia also, you hear in Singapore, they caught some of the college university students in the university dormitories having Bitcoin mining machine in the dorm room. Yeah. So your university hostel, they don't charge you extra for electricity. So some of the students were having Bitcoin rigs. So the idea is that for consensus mining algorithm work, you need to mine. That means you have to do validation. So Bitcoin is actually very energy inefficient because to solve the puzzle, they must give the puzzle to everyone to solve. And then whoever, there's only one miner who wins the block. The rest all will basically like everyone given the time to solve the puzzle. Whoever solves it properly first will get the reward or the satoshis. The rest all would not get anything. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask our colleagues who are doing the thing to click on the two web links. Maybe the first one, ETH viewer. I'm going to actually show you the live blockchain thing for Ethereum, right? So Ethereum is the second most popular blockchain behind Bitcoin. So here we have a browser page called Ethereum viewer. So what you're seeing on page here right now is actually what the blocks for Ethereum is being built in real time right now. So you see the block in red right now, right? That's the current block which is being validated and transacted. Then you see all the little yellow dots, those are the transaction blocks wanting to be queued to put on the ledger block. So all these are Ethereum transactions. The yellow ones all being queued until they are validated and put in the block. So currently you can see the one in red, right? Is right now the block being mined. Yeah. And then people talk, there's a lot of media which is misinformed. They say, oh, blockchain is for money laundering and all that. But actually the blockchain ledger is totally transparent. Anyone can inspect it. It's more open than anyone can see because it's totally out there. So if you can open the second web page, what they call the block inspector. So for any block on the blockchain right now, this is the one we are showing for Ethereum, you can actually inspect the contents of the blockchain, that particular block itself. So if you scroll down the page right now, every single bit of data is there on the block. So the ledger of blockchains is actually totally transparent, right? The issue of money laundering and criminal activity is not on the ledger itself. It's when people convert. Normally, there's criminal activity between when they convert their coins into real money or vice versa, right? So when you're talking money laundering, people take their cash, right? Then they use a third party to convert into coins. But once their coins are on the ledger, it's actually totally transparent. So let's say I have some Bitcoin coins, right? Maybe tonight I want to send it over to Swiss, right? I send her one coin. So it'll be recorded on the blockchain ledger, right? For Bitcoin. It'll show the coin being transferred from my digital wallet to her digital wallet. It's all there, nothing secret. But the question is that in the media, what we were saying about money laundering is they ask you, they asked me, Choong Huei, where do you get the money to buy the coin in the first place, right? You gave her one coin, but the source of your funds for the one coin, where do you get it from, right? So that's the part. It's like no different than people, you have a nice house you bought, right? Where do you get the money for that, right? Right? Can you prove to me the source of the funds, right? Right. So there's a difference. So the technology itself for blockchain is totally transparent. Whoever wants to inspect the ledger is free to inspect it. You can, if you have the patience to read, the data is all there. Right? So for instance, if one MDB were to happen on blockchain, then you can see whether it's from Jolo's account to Najib and who that. Everything will be there for everyone to inspect. Because the money flow for the coins, right, you're going from his wallet to another person's wallet and all that. You need to have a lot of investigations to police to see where the money went, right? If you do it on blockchain, you can immediately say, oh, Najib passed to whoever and blah, 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 right? Yeah, all there. Okay. Okay. Malaysia is very interesting. I don't know, anyone of you heard about this website called CoinGecko? Anyone? CoinGecko? Yeah. CoinGecko is a very popular site where all the coin prices and data are on there. Do you know it's a KL company? Do you know CoinGecko is started by KL? The co-founder Bobby Ong, he's on LinkedIn. Okay, they're all Malaysia Boleh people. Okay, so go look up CoinGecko. Maybe invite the CoinGecko people to speak. They are truly Malay. They are in KL. Right, CoinGecko is one company. So CoinGecko is where, if you want to see, you see a gecko, right? It looks like a lizard. It's a site where you're keen to learn more about coins. You can go there. It consolidates all the prices and the data on all the coins. So now there are thousands of coins available. Obviously, the biggest one you hear about in the market are like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and maybe Cardano, right? And recently, a lot of volatility in the so-called stable coins like Tether and all that. The stable coins were not stable. Okay, so now if you ask me, I personally can't keep up with all the innovations in blockchain, right? It's like Malay, they call it makan tak habis, right? You can see everything and get totally distracted because the technology is evolving so fast, and because of a lot of financing, a lot of startups offering so many different type of applications, right? But I'll categorize it to just a few. The ones more popular right now, this is the subject of my remainder of my talk, is what they call distributed finance, which is DeFi for short, and NFTs, which is non-fungible tokens. Okay. So for DeFi, it's very simple. It's a revolution in blockchain which allows consumers like us to bypass banks and financial institutions, because the DeFi technology allows us to transact among ourselves using the blockchain. So now you have different types of DeFi applications come out. The most popular is what they call peer-to-peer lending, right? I don't need to go to a bank to deposit money to get interest. I don't need to go bank to borrow money, a loan. In fact, I can now borrow money between ourselves, right? Using the blockchain as the system to clear it. So that's what is big right now, DeFi. It's called P2P lending. So different forms of DeFi have emerged. A lot of it is relating to lending. And some of them is also to send money abroad for remittance purposes, right? You can send money anywhere in the world. Actually, sending out a blockchain DeFi transaction is really like sending email. It's even faster than a bank can produce wire transfer for you, a remittance, right? You just send it like an email, typing email. You just give the address of the recipient, and within a few minutes, voila, it appears on the other side wallet already, much faster than any bank. So the banks are actually very concerned about this because it takes away their business. Their business has always been about lending money to people and accepting deposit from others. Central banks, obviously, around the world are very worried because now they lose control, right? Regulators want control of the system. And now you have a protocol which allows the control to be given to the power of the community. The community itself owns the power. The central banks have no power. The banks, the traditional banks also don't have power, right? So people are not, the incumbents are concerned about that. Yeah. Okay. Next page. Yeah, can scroll down faster. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's scroll further. Thank you. Okay. So DeFi really is just a genesis. I'm sure all of us know about Lego blocks, or we have played with them when we were young. So Lego blocks is very simple, right? You take a few basic blocks, and on top of that, up to your imagination, what you want to create out of the basic blocks. So blockchain, DeFi, NFTs are like that. So I think one of the icebreaker questions she's going to ask me, she let out the secret just now, right? She's going to say like, where do you see the future, or what are people going to do? I says, up to your imagination, right? So I use this slide right now. It's like you have been given all the tools in the equipment of a kitchen. All the tools have been given to you. You have the ingredients, right? You have the tools in the kitchen. Up to you as the cook, what do you want to make with it? Right? Up to your imagination. I can say, people ask me to look into the future. Look at all the predictions for the internet 20 or 30 years ago, right? All the predictions were totally off the mark. 30 years ago, when the internet came out, right? The famous Nobel Prize Professor Paul Krugman, right, at Princeton, he says, the internet cannot be anything more than a fax machine, right? I find it even worse than a fax machine, right? Or at the turn of the 20th century, the history of aeroplanes and flight, right? We all know about the history books. The Wright brothers in the US designed the first successful plane, right? Were they intellectuals in universities? No. They were bicycle mechanics, right? Who invented the aeroplane. And at the same time, you remember the race to build the first aeroplane was not just the Wright brothers, everyone. And the famous joke I still quote people when I talk about predictions is that the famous professor at Cambridge called Lord Kelvin, right? He predicted at the turn of 20th century there can never be any heavier than air machines in the sky, right? And he's the famous Don at Cambridge University, right? With this title. And here you have two bicycle mechanics, right, who prove him wrong, right? So today, if you are going to ask me what I predict, I can guarantee you my prediction will be like totally off there, right? So I just say I offer you tonight during a Q&A, ask me all the questions. It's just a snapshot of what I'm thinking of right now. So sorry I'm digressing, but let's go down the slides here. So you can see many apps right now, a lot. And I think most of them won't survive. Some of them have very good use cases for consumers to use, but there are a lot of them are what I call selling koyo also. You know what the term locally, orang jual koyo, right? Last time you go kampong, koyo medicine man always selling koyo, right? Cure all, everything also can, right? That's like before the session today, there's one member audience work for FMCG company, right? And then I said, yeah, you work for the company selling Breeze wash powder. Last time I was young in the 70s, I used Breeze to wash my dog. Then she was like looking at me, Right? So you never know, right, the use cases of where things will harm. Things will evolve, right? Yeah. So that's all I can say. Things are evolving. You never know. But I'll say a good part of what we see today won't be around. And what we think couldn't be done will open up imagination. But it's up to you all to have the creative spirit in you to experiment. Yeah. Okay, ongoing issues. First one, pump and dump is basically coyote seller, right? They say, wow, this one, Jin Ho, Hokkien one, Jin Ho, Jin P, buy guarantee, right? Then after that, poof, kaput, right? No different than last time the stock counter, right? Always got some hot IPO, or you heard your neighbor, your club member talk the coffee shop, the kopitiam, bullshitting, right? Oh, this one, then after that, piang already, chao ta already, Hokkien on that. So in cryptocurrency, it's the same thing. Right now, we are in the period where there are a lot of coyote sellers. So, yeah. It's underlying still a coyote seller, but the form is modern, the modern coyote seller, right? Web 3.0 coyote seller, right? Yeah. So a lot of them will fail, yeah. Then obviously regulations. Most countries right now, they are clamping down. They are clamping down because yes, there are real consumers who are getting hurt, right? They're getting swindled and all that. But at the same time, I think regulators are clamping down because they fear losing control, right? Because it's truly a technology which doesn't require any central party, doesn't require a government, doesn't require any administrative oversight. The blockchain system can actually run by itself. Anyone can run a blockchain node in their house. You can download the software, right? Tonight you can go back. I can send you a web link. Immediately you can be part of the community. Right? All the source code is open source. Yeah. Maybe tonight you all quite go back to your company server room and now start data mining. Right? You all say like, hey, weekend the server room very quiet, right? The aircon really cooling. Myself just like mine weekend off our office hour. The server still on. Yeah. So we are at the cross junction. Again, we are 10 years into the launch of blockchains, and I'll say it's very, very early. Blockchain is probably going to be around for at least half a century or more. Okay, last part is basically NFTs. Again, NFTs, they are real art, then there are also Koyo sellers, right? Again, we have the subjective. NFT is basically taking a form of digital art, and selling it. See who wants to buy your art, right? Right now it's digital art, right? So basically, some of them are real art. Some of them are really good artists. They're digital artists. So I'll say there's more credibility. But I'll say NFTs, if you see, some of them are really like what I call very trendy, right? Some of you follow fashion trends and all that. Oh, today everybody buys this. Next year everybody buys that, right? These are all societal norms. A human being, right? You buy what's popular. So in NFTs, a lot of digital art, there are things, terms like crypto punks, bored apes, and all that. These are what they call a frenzy, right? These are more like I think sociological phenomena. It's like, oh, I got to have this because my friend also have that, right? I'm sure you have gone into that in non-NFT world, right? Like this year, everybody wants to buy this. Then next year, go out of fashion and everybody buys and like that. Yeah. So NFTs is a form of digital art, but it's up to your creativity, what you want to do with the art. Yeah. I had a discussion with a Frenchman who's a classmate of mine. And the French are very patriotic about their art, right? So I had a discussion. Suddenly, maybe one day, someone might buy over some of the famous paintings by Gauguin or Monet or what, right? And then make a digital copy, right, of the original, and then burn the original. Okay, then here's a friend. Oh, French people will not like it, But if you think about NFTs as an economic form, right? If let's say you have, a rare painting like a Mona Lisa, right? The Mona Lisa can only be owned by one entity, right? And the value of the transaction of the Mona Lisa is only to one party, right? Whenever it transacts. But let's say, hypothetical, okay? No French people tonight, right? We take away the original copy of the Mona Lisa, but we make 20 digital copies of that. And then we auction it off as NFTs. What do you think the value of the 20 would fetch total versus just selling one original Mona Lisa? My argument to my French friend is that collectively, I think it's going to be worth more than just a single transaction for buying the original, right? Now we have 20 copies. The original is gone, but you have 20 digital copies. And I can tell you, the auction price for the 20 digital copies will be worth in total much more than the single one. I don't know the debate until it happens. So one day somebody will try it. Right? Buy the original, rare painting, okay, make digital copies of the original, and then destroy the original. Okay, then that's the time where I think as society we have crossed the form of owning physical asset versus owning digital asset. Right. Right. Yeah, you want to ask the question, you can ask it now. Yeah. Yeah. No, yes, doesn't prefer counterfeiting, but you can, if you, the question in even NFTs, because it's encrypted, the issue about NFT forgery is actually in the secondary market. But if you do it the primary market, it cannot be forged because it came from the source. That means the owner of the current Mona Lisa, right, must be the one minting the digital ones, right? It can't be, let's say, done by third party. So same thing, like just like you have fake Mona Lisas, right? You can go to Shenzhen or what last time to get a Monet or the Picasso, right? Buy it for like $50, right? Yeah. So the issue of fakes is still there, but then NFTs actually have a trace. So I just offer my opinion is that just like you have forgery in artwork in the traditional world, you have forgery in digital art too. But NFTs basically have a history of the records of the ledger. So you have to trace it back to the origin of the ledger. Yeah. Okay, so NFTs basically, I think right now there's a law, right? So last year, I think some of you probably were in the NFT craze, right? Either trying to mint your own NFTs or trying to trade NFTs. So just like a stock market, it's volatile. This year is particularly very volatile. But technology for NFT is really there. So today, NFT is mainly about creative arts. But in the future, we can use NFTs to hold our important documents, like our land titles, our agreements, right? Let's say you're in business, your stock, your sales and purchase agreement, your business agreement, all of that can be put on blockchain ledgers, right? To make sure the record keeping is secure. So don't think about NFTs just as basically for digital art. NFTs can be used for anything. And I think, especially about real estate, I think it's useful. Like land titles, certain deeds and all that, they can always all be securely stored on the blockchain ledger for authenticity and history. So here's the picture. On the right side, you see the top part is called CryptoPunks. And then the bottom right is the Bored Apes. So if you look at the price for Bored Apes, is like this, and now I think it's gone down a lot. People who bought Bored Apes last year, I think, are down more than 50%. Yeah. On the left, we also started the NFT craze. There's a digital artist called Beeple. He used to draw a digital art which he circulated every day. So you see on the left part, it's actually a montage. I think over the years, he made about 3,000 daily drawings. And then he decided to auction all the 3,000 in one montage. He used, I think, Sotheby's or Christie's, the auction house. And it sold for $78 million, bought by a Singapore investor. It sounds a lot, but I think given that he's drawn so many thousand, it came down to about, I think, a few $1,000s per piece. So somebody bought a whole collection of his art. So all the years of him drawing every day, they paid him a few $1,000s for each one he created. Same thing, I think there's an Indonesian boy also did the same thing. He didn't even create art. There's an Indonesian boy who did web blogging every day. And he took a picture of himself every day for a few years. And you know what he did of the web captures he did every day? He sold the 3 years worth of daily screen captures. He sold it for $1 million. So people ask me, what value is that? If you work in finance, it's basically, I say, willing buyer and willing seller, right? People always say, oh, there's some logical value to monetary value, right? I say no. I always say willing buyer, willing seller, right? You probably heard, if you're buying property or what, or you're buying things, you'll hear some neighbor or some party but buying a property for this price. Then you say, what? They'll buy that piece of property for this price. It's Seow. But again, I always say, I'm a logical person. I always say it takes two to clap, right? Left hand and right hand. Willing buyer, willing seller. Right? Transaction is closed when there's a willing buyer, willing seller at the agreed price, right? That's the price, right? Whether or not it's logical or not up to me to decide. Yeah. Okay. All right, we went over this already. NFT is also similar to think a lot of fraud, also a lot of, I think legislation is going to come in. Money laundering, tax avoidance, all that. Yeah. All these issues are similar also for traditional art, right? You use art, to transact and to hide money, all that. You buy paintings and all that. All the same issues for digital art too. Any more slides after this, or we can go to Q&A? Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have the Q&A. We have already some question in the pipeline, but let's just ask one question first. Like for real estate, if you buy a house, then tomorrow you can live in the house. So what, in your opinion, can you do with an NFT? After you buy it for so much, what can you do?
Yeah. Currently, NFTs are basically shared, right? You're sharing your digital art right now on your web browser or your handphone and all that. But I'm sure all the consumer device manufacturers like Apple, Huawei, Oppo and all that, they are going to make a hardware device with a LCD OLED display, which will be a wearable. I predict that within 1 or 2 years, you have girls especially who wear fashion jewelry, instead of showing their trinkets, their diamonds or whatever, inlays and all that, they'll probably display the NFT collection.
It becomes a fashion statement.
Yeah. Then the NFT display, right? Every minute or every hour can change, right? So like for women, like don't need to go to change the outfit, right? This one automatic already. Every hour got different display, right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So now we'll go to the questions which came in from the online audience. And those who are around here, if you have a question, you can also raise your hands. We'll pass you the mic. Okay, this question is coming from Cal Tam. Okay, it's on Zoom. It's not a question but a statement. He said, as crypto is so volatile, it will be too risky an investment. He said this. So, okay, to Cal Tam, just wanted to give a disclaimer that we are here not to give you financial advice, but we're just here to hear the opinion of CH, who's here. So no financial advice, whether you should buy or shouldn't buy, should hold or sell. Okay, and then we will go to the first question, which is what influences and triggers the downtrend of Bitcoin every 4 years as I see it in the pattern?
Okay, that's the issue. If you're following blockchain and Bitcoin, in particular Bitcoin, there's what they call the Bitcoin halving. Because the technology specifically of Bitcoin means that there are only going to be a finite number of Bitcoin coins issued, and that's 21 million coins. Right now, they're passed over the 19 million, so there are only 2 million coins left to be issued. And what they call the Bitcoin halving is that every 4 years, the number of coins to be issued will be half of the previous cycle, right? So let's say, for example, let's say now they are issuing maybe a few thousand coins a year right now. In 4 years' time, when the cycle renews, they'll issue only half of that. So let's say, for example, they're issuing 10,000 coins now per year. In 4 years' time, when the halving happens every 4 years, then only 5,000 coins will be issued. Then after that, the second 4-year halving cycle from 5,000 goes down to only 2,500 and so on. And 2,500 goes down to 1,250. So that's blockchain. That's Bitcoin. Yeah. I know opinion. People use that sometimes. People who are the blockchain, the Bitcoin, I call that the Bitcoin maximalists, because they are truly think that Bitcoin is a value. They always say because Bitcoin is finite, it's 21 million, and every 4 years, new coins become half the previous, right? So it's becoming more and more scarce, right? Every 4 years, up to only 21 million, and therefore, Bitcoin will be very, very valuable long term. But then I said, okay, that's logical opinion, but look at what Bitcoin is trading out, right? It was 60,000 third quarter last year, now it's about 30,000, right? So does this mean you should be buying? Oh, right. I honestly don't know the answer, and I'm not here to provide you financial advice. Yeah.
Next question comes from Prince. He said, can the value of cryptocurrency suddenly drop to nothing? What are the odds of it happening?
Okay, this is a question not just relating to blockchain and Bitcoin. I'll just share with you, again, not investment advice, but I'll share with you, I've been in finance for over 2 decades as a fund manager and all that. I subscribe the famous speculator George Soros, right? He's famous because not of his theory of finance, because his theory is related to his theory about investing is actually a sociological importance. And he said prices in the market are due to what he called a term called reflexivity, right? That means it's reflexive. That means every day the current reflexivity, the market wants this particular product, right? And they're willing to pay. But in his belief, right, his perspective, which I concur, theories about beliefs are transitional, right? So you may think, oh, you say, oh, this one sure go up in price. It's going up in price today or going down in price today, but tomorrow may be different. And it's a sociological phenomena, which most people in investing don't believe, right? We are all sociological creatures. The price of what we want to trade, right, is a belief among ourselves, right? Right. So it's a perspective. And what can happen is that the belief may just go away tomorrow, right? Here today, gone tomorrow, right? So bear in mind, markets are transitionary in nature, and they are all sociologically connected because human beings are social animals, and how we transact and determine value among ourselves are all sociologically driven. Yeah.
So in other words, it can be
anything.
Can be anything.
Just like the earlier question, oh, somebody crazy buy this thing for so much. Right?
Yeah, 26 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a sociological reflexivity, right? Yeah. Yeah. I buy this, I pay this much because, oh, I like that person, right? I pay a bit more, right? Yeah. Is it logical? Doesn't matter. But for me, as a market watcher, I say willing buyer, willing seller, right? Both parties happy, right? So, right.
Next question. Anyone from the floor? Yes, there is one.
Just like to seek your view about central bankers issuing their own CBDC and banning Bitcoin like in China. Does that impede the progress of future cryptocurrencies?
Okay, not investment advice. I think central bank currencies are good for transactional efficiencies. But I personally don't see anything more significant than what the current system has, right? In Malaysia now, a lot of you who are transacting, you are using DWIT now, right? Or using gyro and all that, right? It's not blockchain, right? It's not CBDC, but it's almost instantaneous, right? After this, I can send any of you, or you can send to me something to my mobile phone, right? Number. It's instantaneous. So CBDCs are good for efficiency purposes because no one today, how many of us actually use currency notes, right? Right. A lot of us are using touch and go, prepaid cards, right? Yeah. Do it now or transact. So CBDC in my mind is just a marginal improvement, right? Of that. But the problem with CBDC is that if you are using digital currency, you need to have a digital wallet, right? That digital wallet will also get stolen or lost, right? Some people hold their Bitcoin in the USB drive, no? Then you hear of stories like, oh, somebody threw away my Bitcoin cold drive in a USB, right? Now it's in some recycling dump, no? Right? So my view is that CBDCs don't go further for what current banking technologies, because we are almost there, right? We're transacting using a mobile phone to transfer among ourselves locally. So I don't know what CBDC brings. I think most countries, I think especially the countries which want CBDC are typically the countries which don't have a lot of digital banking. And the purpose of why a lot of countries want digital banking, digital currency, is because for tax evasion. Like, you know, a lot of countries like India or that, they tried. A few years ago, the central banker, who was my former Chicago professor, during that time, the Modi government introduced the new rupee currency, right? Because India has such a big black economy, no one pays taxes. So they didn't know how much all people had, right? So they said, oh, we are going to throw out the old rupee currency. If you don't deposit in a bank, right, and get the new rupee note, right, your old rupee note will be worthless. But still got lobang, people who go around the system. So the Modi government didn't really get the tax revenue that they wanted. So I think digital currency is a form of control. But in terms of transaction efficiency, I think most countries, even like Malaysia, we're almost there. We are transacting among ourselves using apps, right? Yeah. So digital currency really doesn't get that further. I don't see the benefit.
We actually have 3 questions, so I'm not sure how we're going to make this sprint.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just pose the question. How will crypto be impacted and useful when inflation strikes? And is it taxable in Malaysia? Then the last question is that even though, this is from Spencer Yong, even though Bitcoin is finite, is like 21 million, is there nothing to stop unlimited other new cryptocurrency brands emerging? What will this affect the value of Bitcoin in the long run? I'm so sorry, we have to close the question door. I think we'll have to invite this speaker again for our next round because there's more questions coming in at the end.
I'll start with number 3 first. Every day, there's always a koyo seller, okay? And every day, there's always a sucker, okay? Among my cousins and relatives in KL, every time, even of them very well educated, some of them lawyers, doctors, they always ask me, oh, I got this investment seminar, what? Guarantee me double my money in 3 years, right? I say, wholesale, you know, go give the money, then go tido already. But you believe or not? If you can double the money guaranteed 3 years, I said, my job at fund manager, already, just go give go tido for 3 years, double, right? Koyo seller will always emerge. And the problem with the koyo seller, it gives the whole industry a bad name, right? Yeah. But over time, I think the consumer will be able to discern, right? For me, I done investment for so long, my koyo alarm sensor very sensitive, right? Yeah. Within 5 minutes, I say, this one, draw koyo one. Yeah. In Singapore term, they call it TCSS. You know what TCSS means? Sorry for the vulgar language. It's talk, cock, sing, song. Yeah. Okay. Question number 1, 21 million inflation. No one knows. I personally, I thought the belief about the finite currency of 21 million for Bitcoin, I believe that philosophy until this year, right? And you can see it's gone from 60 to 30, right? So people who are holding on the belief that Bitcoin, because of the finite circulation, will still go up in value. I said, good luck with your long-term hypothesis. It definitely hasn't been proven year to date here. We started the year close to 60,000 and now we're at 30K, right? So I said, those who are still holding on, you know, again, not personal advice, I say you be what the Hokkien say, the Tan Kuku capital, you know, yeah, Tan Kuku. Okay, and what's the second question?
Taxable.
Yeah, Bitcoin will be taxed. It's not specific to Bitcoin, but be aware if you are friends who are accountants or tax people, those people who trade very frequently, whether you're trading shares or what, and they are deemed to be your primary activity, then the local tax authorities saying this is no longer capital gains or what. This is your primary business or primary vocation. So when they look at you from that perspective, you'll be taxed as income tax. So be careful of that. It's not just crypto. Because I'm a fund manager, right, in Singapore, I hold some securities in my own name, right, for personal. And I also realized that my tax accountant friend just be saying, I say, the tax authorities will tax you because of what they see, whether you're trading this just for long-term holding or you're trading in and out, right, every day. Right? If you're trading in and out, you're using margin lending or that, then they view this is your vocation. You're spending a lot of time on it. Then they'll tax you not from capital gain, but they'll tax you for income. And the problem in most countries with taxing you, let's say in Singapore, when they tax you on the income, but it's not like the US where if you lose money, you can deduct the loss. Here, one way only. You make datang, you rugi, sorry, you cannot, there's no tax credit, right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, CH, for your help.
Thank you to be here. I'll be glad to come back again. Yeah.
Yes, for those of you who have more questions, you suddenly thought about it, he can be found at the back for coffee session. You can ask him on your favorite topic, be it NFT or Bitcoin or Ethereum. All right.